When you're a kid, you really don't understand what your teacher's life is like. And when you're a parent, you're so focused on your student that you don't understand what your teacher's life is like. But what if you could bring teachers into a room and get them to tell their stories?
We always have an odd one in the crowd.
So it's kind of odd.
Decidedly odd.
Doesn't that strike you as a little bit odd?
No, that doesn't strike me as a little bit odd.
It's the Bob and Sheri Oddcast, with stuff we wouldn't, couldn't, or shouldn't do on the regular show. Now, here's the Oddcast.
We took 8 teachers and their guests to Margaritaville Beach Resort in Fort Myers, Florida for the most incredible weekend. We loved hanging out with those teachers and counselors and bus drivers, and we want you to get to know them too. Meet Laurel, who is a first grade teacher.
Both my parents were teachers growing up, so I watched them both, come home every day, talk about their day with us, talk about the kids they have in their classes, and I think that was the beginning of it. My mom used to take me into her first grade classroom growing up, and she would let me sing songs with the kids and write on the board and teach them stuff. And I remember I just thought you got to teach whatever you wanted to. You just got to go in and sing a song with them or do something. I didn't realize you had to actually look at a curriculum and plan. So she used to take me in on my days off, and I would go and teach in her classroom. I think that was the beginning spark of it. And then when I was about 13, I started teaching swim lessons to kids, and I just loved doing that. I was a big swimmer, and I just started teaching swim lessons, and everyone's like, "You're pretty good at that. The kids really like you." And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to work with kids for sure." So I think between those two experiences, it kind of just shaped me into wanting to work with children for sure. And here I am.
Something that I always wonder about is that part, right, where you're student teaching before you're sort of cut loose and sent out into the world. Because a lot of times, especially in high schools, I used to do a ton of community outreach with schools in our area, and I'd walk into a classroom and there'd be a student teacher. And the only way I knew that was the student teacher is because they were in the front of the classroom. Because a lot of times the student teachers look
like teachers,
like the students. Yeah. And I always wonder, what's that like when you're student teaching and you're dealing with kids who are like, "Girl, what?"
So depending on where you go to school, our school has a partnership program. So when you're a partnership and going through your classes, you actually work within the school district for 2 days a week with a teacher. So I had already been in a first grade classroom for 2 days a week for half a year, and then I was in a fifth grade classroom for 2 days a week for half a year. And they're good, the teacher is your role model there, and that's their job, is to kind of get you used to, the classroom, how to run a classroom, classroom management stuff, and then that kind of led you into your student teaching. Then your experience is student teaching. So having that full year of being in the classroom, really 2 days a week, really, really helped. And then you're doing your classes at the same time, so you can bring back things that you saw in your experience and learn from that, and talk to the other people in your classes about what they're seeing. We still do that at our school now. So now I see it as the other side, because I actually have partnership students in my classroom 2 days a week, and it's really cool to be on the other end of that, because I often think back to what those mentors did for me and try to give that to them. I actually did my student teaching in first grade, the same place that where I did my partnership, and I was, I knew the teacher very well, and she was like, "Here's your lesson plan book. You know what you're doing. I'm going to go take a break, and you go and get started." And I really started pretty much on day one, and and it was a great experience, and just kind of jumping in and getting my feet wet, and her trusting me to do that as the student teacher. And now I also, besides having the partnership students, really enjoy working with student teachers. I look at it a little bit differently. Instead of just throwing them in, I look at it as a co-teaching experience with them. Oftentimes, I'll start as the teacher and they're helping me, and then in the middle of their experience, we kind of are co-teachers, because I want the kids to look at that teacher, that student teacher, as a teacher in the classroom, not that I'm the teacher and she's the student teacher. So we kind of do co-teaching. And when you have 23 first graders, 2 teachers is way better than 1. So, a lot of times that co-teaching works really well, because there's 2 of us that are serving these kids instead of just 1. And then at the end, the student teacher kind of becomes the primary teacher, and I will help her, whatever, or him, whatever they need with the students. So it's a good experience, and I really I really enjoy working with those, future teachers, because again, I had really good experiences, and I know that that's going to shape how they are as a teacher in a classroom.
Tell us about teaching first grade, because I love kids that age, but I know as a parent, when I sent Olivia and Karamia off to first grade, I had every confidence they were going to end it reading and writing and doing basic math, and that wasn't going to be coming from me.
Yeah.
So how in the world do you teach 23, 6-year-olds those critical foundation skills? How do you do that?
I think building the rapport with the kids is the most important part, to get them to understand, first of all, enjoy school, wanting to come every day, and wanting to do the things that you put forth on the table for them to do. If you don't build that relationship with them, then they get to choose whether or not they're going to do what you put out there. So if you don't build that rapport with them, they're not going to do it. So I think just spending time really getting to know them, talking to them. I know in our first grade classrooms, we always do a morning meeting in the morning where we just kind of check in with the kids in the class. They all do a name activity to get to know each other. And there's times if you don't do that, they don't even know their names in the middle of the year of their classmates, because they're 6,
Yeah.
So by doing those kinds of things and by doing these activities, they really get to know each other and what each other likes. We'll talk about what you do this weekend, what sports do you do, and then they can kind of make friends in the classroom. And once you build that community, it's a lot easier for them to buy into what you're giving them in terms of curriculum and stuff like that.
That's so different than the approach that you would have in the upper grades, right? I mean, and do you have kids, I remember, I don't know if any of you all did this, when I went to first grade, I really missed my mommy a lot, and was constantly calling my teacher mommy and getting emotional. Now, with my parents, I don't know why I wanted to go home so bad, but I did. But I mean, you have that too. You've got that whole emotional piece, because these kids are now transitioning into a full day.
I would say if you're a person that doesn't that likes your self space and doesn't like a lot of touch, don't be a first grade teacher. Because I mean, they're all over you all day. They're playing with my hair. Do you want a massage? No, I don't need a massage right now. Let's get back to work. I mean, and just they're all. I mean, what other job do you get 50 hugs a day at least? I mean, it's just the way they are. Their nature is to be, close to you and to talk to you, and just so if you don't want to be touched, don't be a first grade teacher.
I bet they tell you wild stuff. When I go into first and second grade classrooms for story time, there's reading month or whatever, and people from the community come in to read. We'll sit on the floor and the kids will gather around, and it's The Walking Dead. They start in a circle and then they get closer and closer. Then they're perched on your shoulder like parrots. They're on your head.
And most of the time they're like, I can't see, and you're like, you're on my lap. What do you mean you can't see?
And you'll be reading the story, and it's something like the Lorax or the Cat in the Hat or whatever, and you'll be like, and then the Cat in the Hat hand shoots up. What is it, honey? My mommy yells all the time.
Yep. All day. Yep, all day, every day. And I think, like I said, when we do morning meetings, that kind of stuff, giving them the opportunity to talk. We also do a little playtime in the morning where they can talk to each other. Giving them those opportunities to talk during other parts of the day, I think helps me get the curriculum delivered better, because I've given them other opportunities to talk with each other. But you're going to get that all the time. And then it's funny, questions only, and they'll do that same thing. Did you know? And I'm like, that's not a question.
I had one little dude shoot his hand up in the air, and the teachers are like, save your questions. He's, I can't. My dog had babies. It was gross. I couldn't hold that in either. I couldn't judge that kid, right?
And then you get the other kid. Can you tell me how that happened? And you're like, oh, we'll talk about that later. Let's just keep going,
So,
yes.
So parent-teacher conferences, and everybody's in those little chairs. Are you looking at those parents and going, I know everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. And I'm also thinking, you've probably heard some stories that I've told too, the other way around, And oftentimes, I'm usually like, oh, I know exactly whose parents those are, because a lot lot of times. If I haven't met them yet, I'm like, I know whose parents those are, just because the kids and the parents are often, apple doesn't fall far from the tree sometimes. You just know which families go together. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting. But I enjoy meeting with the parents because in our school district, we live in more of a rural area, and sometimes we don't get as much parent participation. And I really, really try to open that communication with them, because it doesn't work as well without them. If they don't buy in also to what I'm doing, then it's less successful for the student. So, trying to make sure that I am positive with them and make sure that I'm telling them good things about their kids, and what they're doing, even if we're having some problems, trying to focus on those good things with them is really important, because I want them to go home and tell their kid the good things that they're doing at school, not just, you're talking too much or you're doing this, because, they're not going to come back to me tomorrow if they got a bad report at parent-teacher conferences.
And it's positive reinforcement, right? And I appreciate what you're saying, because I think sometimes it's easy to forget that parents who are not as present may not be present because they're working two jobs. And they're just doing the very best they can to hold it together. And, given the choice, they'd much rather be bringing cupcakes in on Tuesday.
Yep, and that's often the case. I often send home a letter at the beginning of the year kind of asking about that family dynamics and what's going on. Because sometimes if a kid is struggling, or if, I can't get a hold of a parent, I'll look that sheet up and just kind of see what their life is like. Maybe they are working two jobs or whatnot. And I can kind of be like, oh, maybe that's a reason why I'm not being able to get a hold of them, or mom's working late. Maybe Johnny didn't see his mom last night. So that kind of situation. And then we also oftentimes send home a letter that the parents can actually just email us, handle with care in the subject line. And if they do that, I know that something's gone on the night before. And I don't ask questions, but I just know.
That's awesome.
I just know to keep an eye on that kid for the day. And, they can add stuff if they want to, but oftentimes they don't. They'll just put that there, and I'll just know that I need to just keep an eye on that kid for the day, that they might be off, and it could be for some reason. And then if they want to share later, they can.
Now, do you let them know that's...
I send home a letter at the beginning of the year with that on it. And
that is
great. Our whole team does. And I was like, that's a great way that, they feel like they can open up and tell me that something's going on without having to feel like they need to give their whole life story.
Our parents be copying and pasting.
Every day. Yeah.
Just go ahead and get it ready.
That's the thing. Like my sister wife, my husband's first wife, was a school teacher her whole career, and then a curriculum coordinator. And the one thing that was so important to her was always remembering that a child who's acting out and struggling in school is a child who's struggling somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you're not Wonder Woman. You can't do everything, but just that awareness.
Absolutely. And there's so many jobs that a teacher has, besides being just a teacher and putting the curriculum forth. You are kind of like the kid's second mom. You are a nurse when you're doing the Band-Aids. You're everything to them. Sometimes even a counselor if you can't find the counselor at that time, So you kind of have to do, everything. And so that's just a, way to make sure that you can wear those hats and do those things. So.
Now, what do you do when you get a little Lamar, the mayor of first grade, who's just filled with life and personality and would love to be good, but he just has so many words that need to come out?
Call the counselor. Telling them that they're going to have those opportunities to share those things usually subsides it for a little while. And then also thinking about when you're making up lessons, that you're making up lessons for 6-year-olds. So lots of group work, lots of partner work, and times that they can share. Oftentimes, if you give them time to share while they're working, I'm always thinking they're going to be talking off task, but they usually do the work first. And then if they finish, they'll talk. And so if you give them those opportunities, I think that's the best way to do that.
So you're in a
cold sweat though. Oh my God, that happened to me all the time.
No, none of that happened, because she's at a disadvantage. When I was a kid in the first grade and I wouldn't stop talking, she could take me out in the hallway and beat me with a ruler and bring me back in and tell me to sit down and shut up.
Oh, the good old days.
That was the physical violence really was. They didn't have the death penalty for nothing, okay? There's a reason. It does something. And so, that was, here's my question in the first grade though. Do you have a kid every year or so, do you have a kid that's just, when they get there, they can't stay there. They're just terrified. They're crying when they pull up. They're crying coming down the hall. When my first grade class, Mrs. Kraft, we had Harriet Smith. Harriet Smith, the last thing she would grab coming in was the frame of the door, and her mom would have her stretched out, and she's screaming, and we're all sitting there. And then once her mom left, she would always wet her pants. And so, and we had our bathroom in the first grade. Everybody had their bathroom, and so she would say, "Everybody, put your head down, and I'll be back in a minute." But we're all peeking because she's taking Harriet to the bathroom to change her clothes and stuff. And her mom always left to change the clothes because she knew once she left, after the crying didn't work, she was going to wet her pants. I mean, it was a constant, and it took weeks before she finally could
Again, I think
stand
it's
it.
that like relationship and like figuring out what that kid likes, figuring out some things that, like I had a student that was like that, and she loved stickers. So when she came in every day without crying, she got to come pick a sticker out. And so that was, finding something that they can kind of latch onto. So she looked forward to coming in and doing that. Also, this one's a hard one to say, but sometimes the parents would like want to walk the student all the way in there, and I think that sometimes that actually made it worse. Yeah. So just kind of meeting them in the hallway and saying, "I got it from here, they're going to be fine," getting them in there, getting them settled, giving them a little time to be upset before, let them get that out, and then, start trying to talk to them will help that with those kinds of students. And then usually I'd shoot mom or dad a message later and say, it took about 15 minutes, but your child's calmed down, everything's fine. So they're not worrying about it either. And so I think like reaching out to them, that kind of makes that relationship better. And
what's the wildest thing a 6-year-old has said to you?
Oh no, I don't know. No. They say, that's why I was thinking about this beforehand. They say wild things every day that just makes you laugh, that like you don't even skip a beat sometimes. You just laugh and move on. So when I was trying to think about like stories of that, I just was like, every day is that all day long, I think that one of my favorite stories was, I was probably just turning 40 around then, and I was teaching reading group, and we were intently reading this story, and I'm trying to make these kids follow along, and this one little girl was just sitting there on the table like this, and I just remember I was trying to get them all focused, and she's looking at me, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm not gonna say her name, but I was like, 'Hey, why aren't you reading?' And she looked, and she's like, 'I just love that silver you put in your hair.'" And I was like, and like in reading group, like, "What do you do?" You just laugh, and I'm like, "Thank you, I'm glad you like it." And then I went and dyed my hair that night. But but it's like those kinds of like funny moments all day long.
Because they can't lie, they're brutally honest
Oh,
at that age.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then there's another funny story. Again, we have many hats to wear, and I had a kid that just didn't want to come in from recess, and so when we're all lining up for recess, he took off running like through the field, and like obviously that can't happen. So I'm running after him with a walkie-talkie, like calling for help, running, like telling him to stop, and he keeps going, and finally got him to stop, got him back in, and I get to my classroom, and I have a text from my son who is in 8th grade, and he said, "My whole 8th grade English class was cheering you on as you were chasing after that kid. Did you ever catch him?" And I just was like, so like I just had this vision of like these kids like watching me, like cheering for me, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Like an episode of Cops.
It's just like those kinds of things that happen every day, and I just, you don't even skip a beat. So
doesn't it seem like Laurel was born to be with 6-year-olds all day?
I think my last favorite one, I actually wrote this one down, and I know this kid to this day, and he's actually a little bit older than my son, so I see him often, and we do this morning meeting every day, and it was probably one of my favorite classes ever. And just I had a great relationship with them, and so I called them all over to morning meeting, and we sat down. There's this one kid sitting in this chair, and he won't come over. And I'm like, "Hey, come on over to morning meetings." "No," and he's no. I was like, "Come on," and no, and I'm like, "We all want you to join us." I'm trying to coerce him over there. Finally, I went over, and I'm like, "What's up?" And he's like, got my hand stuck in the chair. And he had put his hand through the back of our chair, and he was pulling so hard on it. It was stuck. And we ended up having to call the janitor in to take the back off the chair and his little face. But that was the best class ever. And they were like, it's okay, it's okay. And it was just so sweet. Like, I realized at that point that they had made like good relationships with each other.
It'd be
But
funny though to say, we gotta cut your hand off.
I know, no, that's exactly that's what the janitor
This is
told.
why we're not teachers.
Okay,
The
I'm just thinking it's
the
a great
janitor
opportunity.
told him, he said, if you do that again, next time we're going to have to chop off your hand.
That's why the janitor's
Never
not
did that
teachers.
again.
That's right.
But it was just, and I just laugh at that story. Every time I see our little chairs and I think about that, I'm like, oh man, like don't put your hand in there. So yeah, it's just funny stuff like that. It's every day.
Give it up for Laurel. Hey, if middle school was tough for you, if 7th grade was the hardest grade you ever had, get ready to feel so validated by Chris, who teaches 7th grade. How long have you been teaching, Chris?
This year coming up will be 28.
28. And have you always taught like in the same grade level?
No, started in high school and then have done everything. Little kid PE, middle school, which I'm doing now, which I've done for the last 13 years, but almost every grade level, lots of different subjects. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite grade level?
Not middle school. No. But that's where I am. So, you know, that. Like, so all the stuff Laurel was saying, the 7th graders do it too, except they're 13. They all do the same things. That sounded just like my room, except for the maybe peeing in your pants.
I always thought, so you just validated something. I always thought that middle school must be the hardest period to teach because they're not like really cute anymore.
No,
and they're
not.
going through they can't help it, right? They're going through all of this stuff and they're overwhelmed by everything. And yet they're not teenagers yet either. And 13 years of that's where your hair went.
That's it would. I used to have it. Right? I used to have hair. The middle school kids are on such different like maturity spectrums when they come in the 7th grade. Some kids are like super mature, physically already, big, have a little facial hair going, and then some look like little babies. And so there's a whole lot of difference in between like who's in your room and where they are on their maturation sort of scale. Yeah, for sure.
I had a friend who had a kid in middle school that was just, I mean, like overnight, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? And the teacher told his mom, listen, I've seen a million kids. He's going to be fine. Trust me. This is just a phase. We can tell. Is that true? Can you tell when it's just like a tough time?
He's probably serving time right now.
That's right. Not always. But I mean, I think like Lamar said, like sometimes you'll see a kid and you'll be like, okay, he's going to be okay. This is just the soup. They're so awkward. And they will just say anything. They don't, like they haven't picked up on like the how to read the room. They don't read the room very well. So they would just say anything. So I had overheard in the hall one day this girl that I had in my classroom, and she liked to kind of stir things up. And she said, I heard somebody talking about you in the bathroom, and it was really bad. I don't know who it was, but they were talking about you, and it was bad. And that was her comment to some other people coming down the hall. Like,
and that stirs it up right there.
That stirs it up. Yeah. She didn't know who it was or what it was, but it was bad, and it was about you.
See, my middle school years, I felt like I was Rico Suave, which is what they feel like they are.
Oh, yeah.
They feel like they're Rico Suave.
The Axe body spray.
Oh, yeah. Well, Brute in my day. But
yeah, but it's the same thing, yeah. The more Axe you can wear as a 7th, like if you have a cloud, like that gets into the room before you do.
How do you endure it like all day long with all that Axe and
This year I had a really big room. And so my desk is several feet from the closest row. Yeah. They think that really is like the attractor. Like that's how you get some 7th grade girls to pay attention to you.
That marketing has worked for them.
It really has.
It has.
Yeah, it really
yes, sir.
has.
They expect that
right?
to happen. That's
yeah,
exactly right.
It really has.
I thought the academics, I thought seventh grade was the hardest year, and I include college and graduate school in this. Seventh grade was the hardest year for me, and I don't know whether it was because all the puberty stuff, but I just thought it was so unfair that at the exact time that you're kind of losing your mind, why are we doing weird things with square roots?
Right.
Like,
There's like letters in the math now. Who introduced these letters to math?
Yeah.
You lost me with the alphabet.
That
and
you
put the
did
alphabet
lose
into
me.
math.
You did lose me when letters came into math, and then and we in our school we had to diagram sentences, which I assure you is something I do every day now. If I'm not diagramming a sentence, where am I? But all of the work just got so much harder, and the message was, "Party's over. Get serious."
It's the first year of like not elementary. I know like our school has sixth grade in middle school, but sixth graders are really elementary school students. Yeah. And so you make that first jump, and it is hard. It is one of the hardest years of school. It's like, now you better shape up.
Yeah.
Here's some independence, which they don't always handle well. We also expect you to be a little more mature and handle some things on your own. And when we give you things to do, we expect you to do it. And some of them don't have the tools for that. So a lot of it takes about 9 weeks to get them sort of in the groove. A lot of stuff Laurel was saying about first grade reminds me a lot of seventh grade. It's like, okay, now we're the big kids. Now you're going to change classes, and we're going to expect you to like handle this on your own. And we're not going to contact your parents constantly. Like, you've got to know that it's due or know this is happening, and you communicate that. Yeah. So it's a struggle for some kids.
I don't know about you, Lamar, but in all of my schools, until I got to high school, we didn't, like a male teacher was like, oh, what's that?
Oh, yeah.
Then I got to high school, and most of my teachers, for one reason or another, were male, but up until then, we hadn't really seen a man in the classroom that wasn't helping a child whose hand got stuck in a chair.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So how is that, because I know it's a different dynamic too. How has that been for you?
For seventh graders, a lot of times I am the first male teacher they've had. And the dynamic is different. Some of them don't really know how to react to, like, my classroom is going to be different than a woman's classroom. Like, I'll tell them all the time, it's like, guys, we're going to have a Christmas party, but you better plan it, because I'm not a woman teacher. We're not going to we'll have one if you want to, but I'm not going to be bringing all the stuff in. Right, like we're not going to have a bulletin board with like it's going to change every 3 weeks. That's not happening.
This is so breathtakingly honest. Thank you.
Yes. So like bulletin board goes up on the first day, and it's what's on there on the last day. And it stays the same. And if I could leave it over the summer, it may be the same when I come back. Yeah. So for some kids, I mean, I think when you get to about that age, a lot of these kids need a male role model.
Yeah.
Who's like, this is how you are if you are a man, and this is how you treat other people. This is how you talk to other adults, because sometimes they see men not talking to people kindly or treating them with respect. Unfortunately, that you might be the first man that like is kind to them or acts in a caring way towards them. So I think it's valuable to have male role models. But I will also say, the faculty bathroom, the men's is always open. There's always a line at the women's faculty bathroom, but there's never a line at the men's. So that's a plus.
So since you've been teaching for such a long time, you've had a chance to see your kids kind of grow up and head into the world.
Yeah.
Have there been any surprises? Like a kid that just, was eating pencil erasers is suddenly a physicist?
So I've been doing it long enough. I've now taught children of my former students. So I'm on generation 2. So I remember the first student I had that I had taught her dad. And she came in and said, I'm so-and-so's daughter. My mama says he's crazy. Was he always crazy? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, I could have told you that. She's like, well, I'm not very much like my daddy. And I'm like, no, you're like nice and sweet. And so, no, you are not. Yeah, so I've had several kids that I taught when I started teaching grandchildren, I'm out.
But that's got to be trippy for you because you don't seem old enough to be teaching the children of children you taught.
Well, when you start teaching when you're 22, and you teach seniors.
Yeah, okay.
Like people I've taught, like I'm 51. So people I've taught, like they're in their mid 40s. Like you're only 5 or 6 years older. If you come right out of college and you're teaching in a high school, you're only 5 or 6 years older than the kids.
What was that like when you first started teaching and you were only a couple years older than your students?
It sometimes feels like, am I really like the adult? Like it's okay, like, and they probably looked at you like, pretty close to the same age, right? Like, why are you telling me what to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting experience to go right into where there's 18-year-old kids and you're 22.
Yeah.
Because I'd done my student teaching in elementary school. And so going into high school, it was the first time I'd been in a high school since I had been in high school. And so it was sort of tough for some of the boys especially to like get them to listen to you. It's like, you're just some guy, like, come on.
Yeah, you're just a dude.
You're just a dude. You're about the same age as we are. So why are you telling us what to do?
Yeah.
Now, at your school, like at my school, you were never allowed to just be a teacher. You had to be a teacher, and you had to coach a sport, and you had to run a club.
Yeah. For a long time I coached. My first year of teaching, I was not married and young, and so I ended up being the assistant basketball coach, the assistant baseball coach, and then the president of our school worked at a private school. He said, guess what? We're starting cross country, and guess who the coach is? It's you. I knew zero things about cross country. My high school did not have cross country. So and I've coached high school basketball, I've done baseball, I've done tennis, I've done cross country, I've done run the FCA at our school, like anything and everything. Drove the bus. Some of the very best stories are driving the bus, like driving the school bus.
Oh, don't we know? What's one of your favorites?
So I was coaching, and so a lot of coaches drive their teams because it's just the most efficient way, and they sort of put a lot of pressure on you to do it. So I taught at a pretty rural school, and so the other schools in our district were also pretty rural. So we're coaching basketball. We're at the district tournament, which is like the tournament where all the schools in your district are going to all play each other.
Yeah.
So all the schools are at this one little school. We play in the first game, so I get there, and we play like at 6. So when I pull in the bus, there's nobody there. So the guy tells me, park here. I get pulled in. We play in the game, and when I get ready to pull out to leave, the parking lot is completely full. So I'm like maneuvering the giant school bus through the things, and I see this little opening where I think I can get out. There's a sheriff's car right there. So as I pull by it, I hear a noise that sounds like maybe metal on metal slowly past the police car. So like our principal's on there, and he's like, I think you better get out and look and see if you hit the cars. I was just going to keep going. Like it could have been there were lots of buses in the parking lot. So I pull the brake, get out, and I'm like, man, I took that guy's taillight out, like in the front, the blinker. So I park it, get out, and I start going into this jam-packed gym, and I'm looking for like the sheriff, the sheriff's deputy. So I find him finally, and I was like, hey, we're from, wherever I think I might have hit your car. You come out here and look at it. And he's like, let me see your insurance. I was like, I don't know where the insurance is on the bus. So I'm like digging, like looking for it. So I finally find something. He goes, we have a junkyard we have a junkyard full of those parts. You just cracked it, like, just going back home. So I'm like, I go home. But yeah, that was, if you drive a bus, I know we have one of our people here's a bus driver. Yes, you're going to hit something. Like there's not, like I've hit mailboxes and seen them go flying, and the kids are like, hey coach, I think you hit that mailbox. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I call our guy, and he's like, he already called the board office. We're going to put him a mailbox up. You just hit stuff. It's huge.
I didn't know that it was just a given that y'all were going to take out mailboxes and cop cars.
I thought it would be more dramatic.
Yeah.
But it's just like,
that's only a small list. Carla's laughing at me, but that's only a small list of the things I've hit with the bus. Like chain link fences, like get it hung on, like knock stuff over and just like keep going. Like that bus hit stuff, man. It's big.
God, the kids must have loved it.
They love it. They're like laughing and pointing. Don't tell anybody. We're just going to go.
This is like
That's a great example. All right, kids,
gonna
when
go.
you hit something, just drive faster.
We're just gonna go.
Don't look back.
Don't
Just
tell anybody.
Don't look back.
We're just
don't
going.
tell anybody.
not all learning happens in the classroom.
That's right. Life lessons are what we're really here for. Life lessons.
I am so embarrassed to tell you, Chris, that when I was a kid and the coach would drive the bus, I thought, and all my friends thought, that y'all like drew straws for it because you wanted it so bad.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We'd be like rock, paper, scissors in there. Who will get to drive the 3-hour bus drive to take the girls' softball team? Me.
It never occurred to us you'd want to go home and eat dinner. We were
No.
like, you're so lucky.
You get to drive the bus. It's amazing. Yeah, that's the perk of the job. That's right. You have to work there a long time before they let you drive the bus.
Hit anything you want to and just keep going.
You can hit stuff at the Science Museum. You can knock mailbox over. It's all good.
Where my studio, whatever is, I've got a window I look outside. And one day, it's been a few weeks ago, and the school bus came by, and my neighbor, he's a recruiter for the prison camp. He's a recruiter. And so
You have to recruit people to prison?
no.
How does that go? If he gets anybody to go, I bet he is great.
He's real good.
Listen. If you're going to keep being that funny, you got to sit down. I can't. I already got one up here funnier than me. I can't have another one up here. It's not going to work out. But no, he recruits people to guard prisoners.
Oh, I see.
That's a little harder to get.
Okay, I got you. Oh, that makes more sense.
That's a little harder to get.
I'm with you.
But so he doesn't want to park his the prison thing out on the curb, so he parks his truck out there. So I'm getting the show, I'm sitting, and I hear something go wham, and I look out, and as the bus goes by, his truck's like this.
And that guy kept going, didn't he?
No, she did not. She was not like you. She was not a lawbreaker. She actually stopped. But within 4 minutes, how many vehicles, Carla, showed up? I mean, yeah, it's like school district, sheriff. I think the helicopter was busy, but I mean, everybody was there. I mean, it was like crazy. And I guess all of that is because of the way you've been driving the school bus.
Hey, we got I've applied the term scofflaw as the term.
Yeah, scofflaw. Okay, there you go. Okay.
All right, give it up for Chris. Just don't let him have your keys. You've heard of the stories, the magic school bus. Well, our next winner is kind of driving the magic school bus, and every kid that she picks up every school day morning is the luckiest kid. Meet Heather. So Heather was very surprised to win. But when, and as we've told y'all, we are not allowed anywhere near contest entries because the two of us are just a mess. But we weren't at all surprised when Doc gave us your nomination because you truly are the first person those kids see every morning and the last person those kids see every afternoon. And you could choose to just look at the road in front of you and periodically tell them to be quiet.
Sure. Yeah.
But you made a different choice.
Oh, thank you.
And you had another career.
I did, yes.
So tell everyone about that.
I worked in entertainment for about 20 years. And one day I woke up and I was like, I have to get away from these people. They act like children. And actually, the children are better behaved in most circumstances than some. No offense to the present company, but.
Oh, I don't think you're in entertainment.
Yeah. We're trying, though. Any day now, buddy.
Yeah, let's go.
But no, and I tried a bunch of different things. I'm a reverend. I'm a self-published author. I walk dogs. And then one day I was just looking at the ads in the newspaper. I'm like, they're training people to be bus drivers in my area. I think I want to try that. My husband said, you are insane. And I said, maybe, but I just feel like I need to do this. And so I did the training. I was the first one in my class to graduate.
So wait. There is a place where they teach a person how to drive a
See,
school bus.
Chris?
Safely drive
You
a
can
school
learn
bus.
to drive a bus.
There are actually laws about it, and I know
It's not just learned by doing, okay? It's not just learned by doing.
I know it's contrary to popular belief, but we try really hard not to hit things. But yeah, So I took the class, and in California, at least, it's 20 hours of classroom, 20 hours of behind the wheel. Maybe I did clip
They
a
didn't
few.
tell him where the registration and insurance was.
It's on the bus.
We cut to the chase.
His training was, here's the keys, there's the bus. So 20 hours before they even let you.
Yes,
behind the
and
wheel.
you have to pass 4 tests at the DMV and 3 at the CHP. So it's pretty actually intense. Yeah. If you do it the right way or whatever.
It can be intense, or to hell with it.
To hell with it.
You know, they call Tennessee the volunteer state.
Right.
So now you've taken the test
Yes.
and you know how to drive the bus,
Yes.
which seems terrifying in
It
so many
was.
ways. At what point did you decide I am going to be a person for each of these children like they've never had before? When did you make that decision?
I think it was a couple of days in, because my first day, I'll be honest, they told me you have to be an authority figure, and I think I had kind of a death grip on the steering wheel, and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, shut up and sit down.
Now, see, now we're getting familiar territory. When I rode the bus, that's what I got. Yeah.
But then after a little while, after I calmed down and I got to know the kids a little bit better, there was actually a couple girls that came to me and said that the boys were being kind of inappropriate with them. And I went to my boss and I was basically like, well, what do we do about this? What's the proper procedure? And they're like, well, they're probably just trying to get attention, so write them up. I'm like, absolutely not going to write these girls up. You can fire me over it if you want to, but I'm going to protect them any way that I need to.
So not write the boys up.
Not write the boys up.
And as a veteran of the entertainment industry, you were like, not today, Satan. I have seen enough of this.
That's right. So I came to the girls. I said, this is what they want to happen, but I'm not going to allow that to happen. I want you to sit up at the front near me so I can see everything that happens, and I'm going to look out after you. And I think, from that, they just started talking to me, and I just kind of learned more about them, what they were going through, and I just kind of realized that kids just really want to be listened to. They really want to be heard. They really, as you were saying, really want to be seen. And they kind of just taught me maybe even more than I taught them. And I think that they just want somebody to look out after them.
There are pivotal moments in a person's life. Everybody in this room can probably think of a handful of moments where the road forked for you. And for those girls, that was a pivotal moment because they went to an adult authority figure who not only protected them, but who believed them.
Yeah, and I absolutely did believe them. And now, luckily, we do have cameras on the bus. When I first started driving, we did not. So now things can be backed up if they need to be. But back then, I just had to trust them. And I felt like, why would they make this up? They're not just trying to get attention.
So over the course, how long does it take? Because every school year, you get some of the same kids, but then you get a new batch too, right? So over the course of the year, how long does it take the kids to realize we have the best bus and we have the coolest driver and they can come to you, and I know they do, with tough stuff?
I think it's pretty early on because I promised them a pizza party on the bus if they keep it together all year. And they really want to have that. And they get 3 warnings. I'll be like, okay, guys, you're on your first warning. But no, I try to ask them, how's your day going? What did you learn at school today? What did you do this weekend? Do you have any plans for the holiday break? Because some kids need that wall broken down. They might not automatically just trust adults. So it's just a gradual thing, getting them to know me. I try to show them, a lot of times some kids are on the bus for a really long time. I had a little boy, and he was on the bus for probably about an hour and a half.
Every day?
Yeah, every day. And one of his waits, we had to wait at another school for more students to come on, and he was just on this bus by himself. So he mentioned to me he liked baby animals. So I just bought some books with baby animals in them. And instead of sitting in the front seat, I'd go sit next to him. I mean, look here's the duck, here's the rabbit. And I think if you just do those little things and they learn to trust you, they start to know that they can tell you more and more and want to open up. because they know you're not going to shame them. They know you're not going to make fun of them, that I'm there to listen to them. I had another little girl that told me, she goes, I'm so scared. I think I like girls. And I go, you know what, honey? I'm going to love you no matter what. But you might want to talk to your mom about this. And she's like, okay, do you think I should? I said, well, do you think it's safe? And she said, yeah, I'm just kind of scared. And I said, well, you know what? Probably your mom's going to love you no matter what, too. So I would just try to be brave. I said, if you want me to be there, I'll be there. I'll come with you. And she said, no, let me think about it. And she did decide to do it alone, which is fine. But yeah, it's just letting them have a chance to speak and get to know you.
Sometimes you see this in adults who have just gone off the rails, made a lot of really bad choices. They've ended up in and out of incarceration. And when you really drill down, you find inside that adult body this wounded child who never felt like they were worth anything to anyone.
Absolutely.
And it can really be as simple as sitting next to a child and engaging, like meeting them where they are.
Right.
Baby pandas, whatever it is.
Right.
For that child to feel like, oh, I'm here.
Yes.
And I matter to someone. Someone
I
cared.
matter.
Yeah.
I matter, yeah. I know. I had another girl, she struggled with English. It was her second language, but she really wanted to be a public speaker. So she was taking debate. And I kind of just helped her with some tips on public speaking and things like that. And then she goes, hey, will you come to my first debate? And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I came to her debate, and a lot of people were like, well, who are you? And I was like, oh, I'm her bus driver. And they're like, what? They're like, why is her bus driver here? And I'm like, why shouldn't her bus driver be here? Why wouldn't I do this for her?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just those little things, you just...
But they're not, they seem like little things, but they're the biggest things because they're the easiest things to not do.
Well,
right?
and yes, and I think, like you said, maybe I kind of felt that way growing up. So maybe that's kind of why I've tried to make a difference in these kids' lives, because I don't know if I really had an adult do that for me.
Isn't it funny how it's sometimes it's one or the other. You felt kind of not here as a child.
Yep.
And instead of acting that out and inflicting pain, you wanted to turn around and be for kids what you didn't have as an adult.
Yeah, I remember in high school a teacher told me, she goes, you're a spaghetti kid. And I'm like, I'm a what? She goes, you're a spaghetti kid. You fall through the cracks very easily. She's like, because you're quiet, you don't make a lot of trouble, and so you just fall through.
But isn't it interesting that teacher could see that?
She saw it, but then,
recognized it.
Yes, she recognized it, but then I didn't really feel like she did much after that. And I know teachers are very busy, but I was just like, okay, so she recognized that, but still nothing kind of changed for me. But that always stuck with me that she said that to me. And I guess I just didn't want to make any of my kids be spaghetti kids.
And none of the kids who ride your bus are spaghetti kids.
I hope not.
Are the other bus drivers jealous because you're the favorite?
Yeah, I think so. No, yeah. Yeah, I mean, but they tease me too. They'll call me princess and stuff. They're like, but we're all a happy family. We all get along really well. I love them all.
And
it's possible that you might inspire other, because it's one thing to drive a bus, it's another thing to drive a bus full of people that you see twice a day, the same people all the time. And you sort of should have a responsibility to get to know these people some.
Exactly.
It makes a big difference.
Yes.
It makes a big difference to a kid that an adult would know their name and care about them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Absolutely. I learn all of their names. And some of them, sometimes I struggle a little bit if the kids don't talk to me as much. The ones that talk to me more, I learn right away.
Yeah.
A couple of them, sometimes it might take me a couple of weeks, but I learn all their names. I make sure every morning I get on the bus, hi, good morning, how you doing? And I use their name because that's such a huge thing to be be recognized.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Has it been your experience that the kids who are the most resistant are not at all problem kids? They just have stuff going on where it is hard for them to trust.
Oh, absolutely.
A grown-up.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of that, where they just have had a really hard life already, and they're not sure who to trust, and they're already overwhelmed at their age. So they're looking for maybe a little bit of attention or somebody to reach out to them or a little bit of an outlet. I've never met a kid that was just like bad to be bad, so to say, you know?
Yeah. So, how many police cars and mailboxes have you taken out?
I'm sorry, Sherry. She got training.
Oh, I forgot.
She got training.
She went to school.
She got training. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get too bad on Tennessee because I'm from a state that let teenagers drive the buses. I mean, if you were 16, you could drive the bus. So.
No, teenagers driving school buses. Yes.
Yeah, you'd have to pay them as much. Yeah.
You say what you want about Chris. That's a grown man.
That's a grown man.
Yeah. I'm talking kids. That's right. Yeah. And in South Carolina, sure did.
Were you driving the 40-foot school bus?
The big one,
Okay, yeah.
65 passengers.
Yeah. Oh, they're bigger than, I mean.
It was a 50-foot till he started driving it. He knocked 10 foot off the back of it.
I'll tell you what, though, the gas mileage got better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely it did. Absolutely.
I will admit.
Yeah.
I will admit, when I was in training, I don't know what my problem was that day. I had done really good up until a certain point. Maybe I was just tired. I don't know. And I kept going over the curb when I was making my turns. And finally, the trainer's like, you know what? I'm just going to take over the bus today. You can't drive anymore today. You're going to make a bad mistake.
You're just going over the curb? What is that? What is that?
You know what they call that in Tennessee? They call that a shortcut.
Exactly.
But other than that, and I did clip a tree on my first week with my mirror.
It happens.
It was the tree's fault.
The bus still works.
You know,
bus
Chris,
still
I gotta
works.
say, with all these fancy credentials, she sounds like you.
I've never hit a fire hydrant or a police car, though.
There's still time.
There's still time. There is still time. Yeah.
Never give up your dreams.
Never give up. Yeah. I just remembered. One time I was pulling out of a stop, I dropped this girl off, and she was at the end of a driveway, so I had to kind of do this 3-point turn and turn around, and I did knock her trash can over, and I heard her say, "Hey, you hit my trash can," and I was just like, "Dude."
You accelerated, didn't you? See? That's Chris's motto. Go! Go! Don't look back!
I'm like, it was just a trash can.
Everything's fine. Calm down.
I forgot about that. Okay.
So why were you so surprised that that you won this trip?
Well, it was for teachers, specifically. And it just seems like there's a lot of things that give teachers recognition. We have Teacher Recognition Week and Teacher Appreciation Day, and teachers get discounts at Starbucks for this day or that. And it's very wonderful. Y'all deserve it, and I think it's fantastic. But we're very rarely included. I mean, there's a Bus Driver Appreciation Day, and I bet nobody knows what day it is. Yeah, you too. And I'm not criticizing anyone here. Nobody knows what day it
Team
is.
Bemidji ringing in with the answer, though.
I hate to keep bringing this up, but Chris they're not going to have an appreciation day for Chris.
Oh, when you said that, Chris disappeared.
Yeah.
And there was a huge shortage. I mean, a massive shortage. And one of the reasons is we don't necessarily always get the appreciation. We're not paid very well. In my district, landscapers are paid more than bus drivers, which that's a very hard job too, and I appreciate it. We want to keep the ground safe for the kids.
You are carrying our children.
But we're carrying the children. Yeah. And so it seems a little bit unbalanced.
Well, the other thing is, in this situation, you're not just carrying them, you're caring about them.
Yes.
And that's something to be said. I can't say that everybody,
Yeah.
Once again, Chris did not mention. Yeah, but you didn't do nothing for him. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
He taught them that it's just a tail light. Settle down.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you don't need to make it into a catastrophe.
But really and truly, the whole reason you're sitting up here recognizing this is because you do take the time to know and to appreciate and the kids are seen. That's a big deal.
Oh, well,
it's a
thank
big
you.
deal.
I
It's
do
a big
appreciate
deal.
that.
Yes, absolutely.
And you spoke for a group of people that nobody speaks for.
Yes.
And so when your nomination came through, the judges who chose all of you were like, hot damn. School bus drivers. Why aren't we recognizing school bus drivers?
Yeah.
And so you gave us a chance to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of been a little mission of mine to get the word out there.
Accomplished.
Thank you.
So, yeah,
Because I think in entertainment, very often the bus driver is shown as a burnout, a dropout, an alcoholic, a drug addict. I mean, you think about it always
Or
in
just
South Carolina, that was true. I'm just saying.
Or just a curmudgeon.
just a curmudgeon. They're
Yeah.
not nice. I mean, one of the guys in my district actually saved the life of a little girl on the bus. She stopped breathing and he saved her.
And nobody.
He got a certificate from the city.
But where was his little feature on
Right.
ABC World
Right.
News Tonight?
Exactly.
Right?
You hear about the ones that hit things, but you don't necessarily hear about the ones that are doing the hard work and the fantastic job.
Yeah.
What's been amazing here is the entertainment industry, long career in graphic design, mortgage banking, investment banking, one after another, people saying, this is fine, this is good, but this is not feeding my
Right,
soul.
exactly. And that's exactly where I was at. I just needed something that was feeding my soul. And I really loved entertainment, but it just wasn't quite the right fit.
This is, we are living in a very strange time now where teachers are being demonized in some quarters. And that makes me crazy because I'm here today because of teachers.
Yeah.
Teachers are the reason that I thought that anything good could happen in my life and that anything was possible, right? It makes me crazy when people shit talk teachers. It makes me crazy when people are critical of teachers and school administrators and bus drivers because it's not a job where you go to get rich and famous and have a lot of awesome perks.
Right, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we talk all the time about the children, everything for the children. It takes a village. Well, this is the village.
Yep.
Look around.
Absolutely.
Y'all are the village.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I forgot someone was saying about their dog had puppies. I did have a girl on my bus once ask me, she goes, my 2 dogs got stuck together this weekend. What does that mean?
It means it's time to get the water hose.
I think that's a question for your mom, honey.
I bet the number of times you say, I think you should ask your mom about that.
That has come out a few times.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest bus driver in America. Heather Bonus. Yay. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Oddcast. Our website is BOBANDSHERI.com. We have some more really amazing teacher stories coming up for you in future Oddcast episodes, and we are looking forward to the next time we get to hang out with some of the best people we've ever met. We'll see you on the next Oddcast.